Hello everyone, I'm Joe Ackourey, and welcome to the Fly of the Week. For this episode, episode 79, I'll be tying a white fly Compara done dry. White flies typically start appearing on my home waters around the last week of July and lasting until the first 2 weeks of August. Most of my experience fishing this hatch has been centered around the Susquehanna River for smallmouth bass, where the hatch comes off so heavy that the city is forced to close the bridges that go over the Susquehanna in fear of accidents happening. My main suggestion to you is, if you get the opportunity to fish this hatch, catch as many fish as possible before the hatch starts ramping up, because once target as many fish as you can prior to the hatch ramping up, because once the hatch is in full swing, your one fly is so insignificant to literally thousands per square yard. So yeah, the beginning of the hatch is the best to capitalize on catching fish. There's also a bonus at the end of the hatch, or when the spinners start falling, I should say. All these dead bugs collect in the back eddies, and smallmouths aren't the only ones gulping up these spinners. We're catching channel cat up to 3 feet long. Channel catties are actually taking these dry flies off the surface, and a well-timed cast, you're going to connect. So yeah, it's well worth it, guys, if you get a chance to fish this epic hatch. So without further ado, let's get started. All right, guys, here we go. The white fly Compara done dry. Start by placing your hook in the vise, making sure that the shank of the hook is relatively parallel with the tabletop, and begin to cover the shank, at least the 50% of the shank of the hook, with thread, including the eye. Clip off your excess. So now our first step is, for our first material, we're going to determine where to set the wing, and basically all I do is wrap half the shank up with thread and then wrap halfway back up, which is about there if you count for the eye. That's exactly that's our sweet spot for our wing. So this is my go-to dry fly pattern for the white fly hatch on the Susquehanna River for when I'm fishing for smallmouth bass. I tie it a little bit larger than the actual natural, because this hatch gets so heavy that your one fly when this hatch ramps up is so insignificant. It's insignificant to literally thousands per square yard. So yeah, a little bit larger fly helps, not only for you to see it, but the bass seem to key on it. But yeah, so the first step is placing the wing on, and we're going to use Compara done belly hair for the wing. So let's cut off a good, I usually go with 3/4 of a gap's worth of hair. That looks like a good amount there. And then you want to kick out any fuzz that's in between the deer hair. And again, the deer body hair is very hollow, so this will float like a battleship. So just take out all that fuzz. Now I'm going to put the natural ends inside the hair stacker to stack the wing. This is a very easy fly to tie. It's not much different than any other Compara done I've tied in previous episodes. So there's our end result. A nice, clean looking natural ends are all lined up. Take that out of the hair stacker. Now we're going to do a little measurement here. We want to measure the length of the wing is going to be equal to the shank of the hook, including the eye. So the first step is twisting your bobbin. You want to make sure that the thread's relatively tight. It doesn't matter left or, clockwise or counterclockwise for the wing, for the thread. So our first step to attaching this wing is, after measuring it, we want to put it in that sweet spot. And I'm going to wrap about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 wraps. Take them off. And the idea behind that is putting a crease in the wing so that you can see that well-defined crease, so that when I go to wrap this, it's going to bite down really deep. Look at that. It's not even a full wrap, and it's down deep, and that's where I want it. And it'll also help me spin this around. My technique is rotating this wing, distributing the deer hair all the way around the shank of the hook so that you can see it's completely surrounding the wing. And what that does is eliminates that Compara done bump, I call it, that you see all the Compara duns. The normal way is to just hold the wing on top and anchor it in there, and then you're left with that big bump in the back. But by spinning the hair around, or the wing around the entire shank of the hook, it distributes that deer hair or that bump all the way around, and it lessens the bump. So that'll enable you to tie much smaller flies using the Compara dun method, or the wing method. So I'm going to go ahead and clip off all the excess, the cut ends, and I'm going to miss a few. Just going to pluck them. Any of these fibers that don't cooperate, and it's a mess right now, and I really didn't even anchor it fully yet, but let's do that now. Okay, guys, there is no bump. It's gone. It's just a great technique. So now, once we have our wing fully anchored, and you could see the end result there, I want to gather that wing that's wrapped 360 degrees and pull it evenly up, and then dam some thread up in front of the wing and just give it a little pull, and there's your Compara dun wing. It looks ugly right now because I got some cleaning up to do yet, but that's pretty much it. So there's our wing. I'm going to try to angle it to the camera a little bit, and you can see. Okay, now for the tail. Since our wing length, so I'm going to wrap my thread back to where the shank and the bend meet, and that's where my wing is going to go. Okay, so as a rule, remember, we're proportioning materials to the hook. The hook dictates to us fly tyers the correct material proportions. So our wing was the length of the shank of the hook, including the eye. So now we're going to make the tail those same measurements. And I found a nice hackle here. Actually, it's a saddle hackle, a pure white bleached saddle hackle that I'm going to use for the tail material. I'm going to draw down the fibers, the hackle fibers, until they're perpendicular to the stem. So I want to pull off a group that's facing back, like these are the natural ends, and the cut ends would be the ones that are coming off the stem. So I'm going to grab a good amount, probably at least a ½ inch worth of fibers. Using the tips of my fingers, I'm going to grab the tips of the hackle fibers and squeeze them tightly and just draw it away. Then I'm going to gather them carefully, and there's my tail. Okay, so now we're going to do the same measurement. Length of the shank of the hook, including the eye. There it is. My thread's already in position. I'm going to anchor that in there, just like so. Excellent. Now, the excess material you're going to blend in with the excess wing material. Although the length of this tail material is a little bit longer than I want, so I'm going to just remove the end so that it blends in nicely. As you could see, nice transition. And you can also see that there is no bump in it. It's just gone. This technique is the way to go, guys, if you're tying Compara duns. So now, as a rule, I like to kick a couple of wraps of thread under the tail and then fan out the tail while keeping a little bit of tension there, and then lock it in. So there's my tail. Again, the whole fly looks a little bit ugly right now, but I promise you it'll look like a masterpiece when we're done. So I like to rib this white fly because it gets beat up from the bass. And this little bit of white rod wrapping thread size A will give it some longevity and durability. So we're going to tie that in. It's just tie it in to the side of the shank of the hook and wrap it back until it meets the tails, like so. Boom. And then I'm just going to place that in my material clip. So I'm going to pull this wing forward a little bit and try to get rid of a couple more of these cut ends here. There's only a handful left. That looks good. So now for the body. The body is going to be made out of my white fur blend that you could find on my website. It's really easy to use, like all my dry fly blends. You could dub down to easily down to a 28. So I'm just going to draw out some of this fur blend and start making my noodle, my dubbing noodle. So yeah, this hatch is just an incredible hatch to experience. If you ever get out to the Susquehanna River, that's been most of my experience fishing for smallmouth bass with this fly, and I just wanted to share this pattern with you. My recommendation is catch as many fish as you can in the beginning of the hatch, because man, if you catch that hatch on the right day, it is biblical. It's crazy. It's crazy. It's fun though. You could, I've done some television with our local outdoor channel, and if you check out Google my name, Joe Ackourey, and whitefly, you'll get an idea how heavy this hatch can be. So we got our dubbing noodle. I'm going to pick up the tails and wrap, just a wrap underneath, and begin to build the body. Just take your time. Looking good. Looking good. Pull your wing back. Build up in front. Going to need a little tiny bit more in the front and back. So form a noodle, and you can see I'm using very little, just enough to place a couple wraps in the front of the wing, and then pull my wing forward and in the back, and finish off in the front. Okay, form a little foundation for your head. So now literally the only thing left to do is get your rod wrapping thread and begin segmenting the body. Not that it's critical to have segments in it, but again, smallmouths beat up this fly, and this rod wrapping thread will help hold the body together longer. I'm just going to gradually work my way up. The body. Here we go. It adds a bit of durability to this fly, a good bit. You might catch a couple deer hair fibers, but no big deal. That's what scissors are for. There's plenty of the fibers available, so a couple won't matter. So once you lock that in, I like to fold it back and just give it a double lock. Okay, clip off your excess and tie your knot. Now just clean it up a little bit. So So yeah, I hope you guys can get out there and hit this hatch. It's coming up in another, like I said, in beginning of August is the main part, but like it'll start appearing probably right around the very end of July. Just put a drop of head cement on there and this fly is done. So there you have it, guys. Compara done. White fly, can't beat it. That's my, like I said, that's my go-to pattern, and works really well. So I want to thank you for joining me in this episode of the Fly of the Week. If you like the content I'm pushing out, please hit the notification bell and be sure to subscribe. Tight lines, guys.